and welcome to the show. Listen, some skills come in very handy in the unlikeliest of scenarios. I mean, how many engineers do you know with a luxury fashion line? Well, let me introduce you to one of my favorite. Dedrick Thomas is the founder of luxury fashion line Hideaki Bespoke. His designs are worn by rappers including Rick Ross and Young Jeezy, actors Steve Harvey and Terry J. Vaughn, and Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter on his big day. A designer who's come a long way from working out of the back of his trunk. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Good to have you here.
My pleasure.
Yes,
it's an honor.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to have you here and looking sharp as always.
I had to represent for you.
Thank you. Listen, I want to talk about this transition from corporate engineer to high-end fashion designer, but I also want to talk about the young man who grew up in small-town Mississippi and where the fashion bug started years ago.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I grew up in a town of 1,000 people, no traffic light.
What's his name?
Pickens, Mississippi.
Pickens, Mississippi, yeah.
Actually, it's 994 people. I just rounded up to 1,000 because it sounds better.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
But raised by my grandmothers, actually raised by my mother and grandmother, raised by like 4 grandmothers. So, I mean, they always inspired me with their fashion.
Yeah.
So I always was around style and fashion growing up as a kid.
So they left the house looking sharp, and this young man saw a very sharply dressed women in the family.
Oh, absolutely. Fedora hats, mink coats. Oh, they was fly.
Nice. All right. So that then leaves an impression, but you still go off to college and study engineering.
Industrial engineering.
Explain. Why?
Well, when I first made it to college, I majored in biology.
Okay.
But after my first day of dissecting some animals, I said, I'm getting up out of there.
Oh, you were not, we're not slicing from. We're not going to do that.
I ran straight over to the office, changed my major to industrial engineering.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So at least you recognize this isn't going to work and change gears.
Absolutely.
Well, what was it about engineering?
I mean, for me, industrial engineering kind of encompassed everything. Not just, specific civil, which is building bridges, or electrical or mechanical. Industrial to me was kind of like a broader engineering discipline that not only taught you engineering, but also taught you business, disciplines. So that's why I liked industrial engineering. So
how does this, and you were very successful doing this for years, so what was it that clicked? What was it that made you shift and say, this is good, I enjoyed this, but? Yeah.
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur by trade. I never, I never made a decision that I wanted to own a fashion company. So, I've owned my own consulting company, engineering, supply chain company.
But you weren't formally trained in fashion.
Absolutely
not.
So
how did you take your skills in engineering and move them into a very different space?
Well, going back, so I've always been an entrepreneur. So in my engineering space, I worked with a lot of different companies.
Okay.
In the retail, wholesale, fashion space. So a lot of different companies like, Hudson Bay companies, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Armani, Ferragamo.
So you were interacting with some folks
fashion.
And having a sense of what this looks like.
Absolutely, but not necessarily designing, but more so on the back end of technology.
So then how do you then plug into the design space?
I mean, that's just how I grew up. I just kind of adapt, and I just saw a business opportunity. And then, I kind of came up with the concept of Hideaki was not about, when I used to go into different retail stores, the experience just didn't parallel to me. I really wanted to create a camaraderie, a network of the right people and the right friends. So I just felt like, if I created a space, created an ecosystem that people can come and indulge in, conversations and networking.
Yeah.
Hey, I just figured while they was there, somebody had to buy something.
Somebody just go ahead and try on one of these suits. Let's talk about Hideaki. That is a Japanese word with a southern Mississippi spin.
There you go.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So my middle name is Hideaki Hajiwara. Okay.
I feel like that's Japanese and African
it's
twist
Japanese.
there.
It's Japanese. So my mother saw it in a magazine when she was in college.
Okay.
Now, of course, I'm not Japanese, as you can see.
We see that.
Yeah, even when I did my ancestry, I'm not
It did not
Japanese.
come up in the DNA.
Yeah, right, all right. So she saw it in the book, and she gave me the name, and my grandmother did not like that name. So my grandmother told her not to name me that name. But after my grandmother went home and left that night, My name was actually Dedrick Thomas.
Okay.
My mother crossed it out on the birth certificate and put Hadiaki Hajawara on my official birth certificate.
Wow, okay.
So that's how I ended up with the name.
And that's why you put the name on the brand.
Yes,
You wanted it to stand
Hadiaki.
out.
I figured I'll do something one day with it, so I took the name Hadiaki, and that's what I did.
And you met a photographer by the same name.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that experience and how that influenced you.
So it didn't really influence me at all, but it so happened that I actually met the son and the daughter-in-law of the photographer from Japan. Mm-hmm. He moved here in 1974. His name is Hadiaki Hajawara.
Oh, wow.
And again, you pronounce it Hideyuki in Japanese.
Yeah.
Southern translation is Hadiaki. How I pronounce it,
Right.
Mississippi vibe. Okay.
So I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. So we have just about a minute left. I don't want to leave out the fact that you
Okay.
end up making some really strong connections
Got
to
it.
some really incredible artists.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, over the years, when I first opened up my first studio in 2012, I began doing business with Steve Harvey, one of my first clients, and we've made hundreds of suits for Steve over the years, and been a great friend, a great mentor. And
What's that like the first time you go from, okay, I think this is what I want to do, to you get a call, there's an outreach? I mean, what's that like?
I mean, my business from the trunk of my car to my first studio to my second studio has always been word of mouth. So it's always been word of mouth.
Nice.
No advertisement or anything like that.
Nice. That's a
Yeah.
good sign
Yeah.
of good craftsmanship. And we know that that's what you are all about, as we see just a hint of some of the work you do
Right,
here
right.
on the set. Listen, Dedrick's designs have been a part of some really big moments in pop culture. We're going to have that part of the conversation right after the break. Stay with us. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I really want to thank you for season 3 of Portia. It's because of loyal viewers like you that we keep getting to share this daily dose of positivity all across the country. So just a reminder, I still need you to like, comment, and subscribe. And go ahead and tell your friends. You can catch us now in Orlando, in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and all across the country on Fox Soul. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon on Portia.